Very excited to be here. Thank you everybody for showing up on a Saturday morning. And really excited. We did this 4 years ago, and then COVID happened, and now we're back with PyCon. It always, gives me real pleasure and excitement to be at this conference. We should get started. I have a lot of slides to look through. So before we start, how many people here know the relevance of this image for PyCon? Raise your hands. Wow, that's really amazing. Okay, so for those who don't know, PyCon was actually named after this show called Monty Python's Flying Circus. How many people knew that? Excellent. Since then, though, I think the community has kind of embraced the fact that PyCon is going to be serpents intertwined. But definitely the way it started was this time. To make this slide deck, I had a lot of data to store, and it was growing data. Most of this data comes from sources online, and I thought I shouldn't be lazy, and I decided to actually make this slide deck in Jupyter, which was a really bad idea. But I learned a lot of interesting things along the way, and I think you'll find that PyCon can allow you to present in ways that other platforms cannot, but it's a painful process. So to make this deck, the things that I'm using are obviously Jupyter Notebook. How many people know what Jupyter Notebooks are? Obviously, by my community, everybody knows what Jupyter Notebooks are. How many people know what a Rise plugin is? So a Rise plugin allows you to present from a Jupyter Notebook natively, and you can actually edit the slides right in the presentation. I'll show you how that happens. I discovered this really amazing visualization library called Bitsu. Has anyone here heard of Bitsu? I do a lot of data visualization, analytics. I use all sorts of tools, Tableau, etc. I have not seen something so amazing in bringing your charts and graphs to life than Bitsu. Definitely check that out. Really cool thing is that we have the Bitsu, which is a native library for using Bitsu within your Jupyter Notebook. That's really amazing. Finally, all of the code for this deck is non-significant code, is actually on my GitHub. So you can go take a look at the code. It's github.com/pycon/PyCon Okay, so let's move forward. Why is there a title slide here again? Just because I want to convince you that this is actually a Jupyter Notebook, and this is the cool thing that Rise allows you to do. So you can actually, this is the PyCon code that generates the slide. So I'm just going to uncomment these 2 lines here, and then send the line. Again, and you can see that the slide changed for me, the image changed. It was just an F string, so I was really changed the F string. So this is what Rise allows you to do, just natively edit your slide. You can do that while you're Anyway, so I did this at the last PyCon as well. I wanted to get a very loud reinforcement for this. What is the best programming language in the world? Again, loudly. I'm really sorry to burst your bubble. I did this last time as well. The best programming language does not mean anything. The best programming language is always the one that is the best suited to the task it has. But let's qualify that statement, right? And look at a few use cases for this. In fact, in the PyCon community, PyCon is popularly known as the second best language for it. But is it really the second best language for anything? That's the good fact. If you look at things like performance computing, right? System programming, kernels, device drivers, OS, desktop applications, there's no other competitor at all. C and C++ is the market leader everywhere. I mean, probably for device drivers and stuff, assembly languages are close contender, but nobody writes device drivers in Python, right? So the clear gold medal winner here is C++. If you look at web front ends, for example, by the way, HTML CSS is not a language, so depending on everyone's tries to convince you otherwise. But JavaScript was clear that nobody's writing, front-end code which runs the browser using PyCon, right? Maybe you can do that. Maybe you can, do WebAssembly or something. But nobody's seriously writing any front-end code. If you look at web backends, I would say PyCon is a pretty strong contender. A lot of applications have their backends written in PyCon, but PHP, because it runs things like WordPress and Joomla and Google, which run most of the websites in the world, is probably still the number one choice when it comes to, not the number one choice, but the most widely used language right now. Although I think PyCon is going to take over PHP at some point. Right now, most of the web backend code probably runs PHP. If you look at mobile applications, again, PyCon is not in the picture. Nobody's using PyCon to write mobile applications. You can. I'm sure you'll find tutorials on how to write mobile applications in PyCon. Nobody really serious is writing it. Java and Kotlin, which are essentially part of the same family, they both run in the JVM, are the number one choices for writing mobile applications there. And if you're writing that application on Swift, then it's probably, on iOS, then it's probably Swift or Objective-C, right? So PyCon will do it. But is PyCon really good for anything at all? So this is where PyCon really shines, right? This was the moment for PyCon. Data science and ML, MATLAB and R. A lot of people like our professors here use that probably. But I think it's very safe to say that the number one programming language for data science ML today is PyCon. This is another place where PyCon shines. Like if you're doing DevOps, then most of the time you're probably writing those scripts in PyCon. Golang is becoming a strong contender. There are other options that find applications. And finally, slide decks. Don't use PyCon to create a slide deck unless you create your library, unless you're presenting on a PyCon. It's really painful. As much as I hate to admit it, no, I don't hate to admit it, but PowerPoint is the worst thing in the world for slide deck. There is still the number of words for slide decks. So, as you see, PyCon is not really the top choice for many of these things, but the resolution is really bad. This meme is supposed to look like it. Right? So PyCon is the second best language for everything, but it has to be the top language overall, right? It's almost criminal to not use a wheel in the sense of these things. Let's look at that. So this is where the virtual magic is going to happen, and I'm going to talk about the different indices that rank PyCon around the world. So one of those indices is the Python index. The Python index is ranking languages on how people are searching tutorials to those languages, right? And primarily, so what language is it that people really want to learn? The TOB index is a more popular one. It looks at the entire population of programmers for certain languages around the world, and it also looks at the number of web pages on the internet that mention that language. So it's more comprehensive. Both of these have been around for a long time. Obviously, Stack Overflow, we all know. They also published the data for what is the most popular language on their platform. Stack Overflow, we all know, is the Q&A site. And then finally, this is an index that I actually maintain myself. So Hacker News, every month, it posts a thread called Hacker News Who's Hired, right? And then companies, progressive companies, new tech companies come and post their jobs there. So I've been collecting that data for the last 7 years, every month. And this is actually an indicator of which language are people hiring for. So now let's look at each of these indices a little bit more detail, and you're going to see some visualization here. This is the reason I say that Visual is kind of the best visualization platform that I've seen, which has recently come out. So, how does PyCon rank on each of these indices? So, on the Python index, it has always been a top language for the last 20 years. On the TOB index, it's ranked second this year, 2023, but it's ranked pretty low in previous years. On Stack Overflow, it's ranked pretty low in the past few years. And on Hacker News, I just checked the 2024 data. It is the #1 language which people are posting jobs for. So you can see overall also like it ranks very high at some industries, not so high at other industries. And then I'm going to show you some more details of each of these. By the way, all the data that I use in this is on my GitHub, and it all comes from all of these industries. They publish their CSVs and their data. So let's look at each of these in a little bit more detail. I love making bar chart traces. Bitsu is the easiest way to make bar chart traces, like 5 lines of code, right? So this is how PyCon is in the POV index since 2012. So in 2012, it was the 8th most popular language, and this is what has happened over the years, right? So it kept growing in popularity, and 2018 is the time when ML and AI became really mainstream. 2014 is the time when DevOps started happening because cloud was really gaining steam. So for the last 3 years at least, it's been the top language on the POV index. But I say second here, not first. Why is that? Let's look at that. This is another really cool transition. So Bitsu allows you to do that. You just basically give it visualization and it'll create automatic transitions between those visualizations. So this is the POV index for the last 12 years. And you can see that PyCon became #1 in 2022. But what's going on here? The blue line and the dark blue line are C and C++. Almost every other index combines these two into one. So if you combine these two into one, you can see that C and C++ combined has no competition. And it's understandable, right? Every OS, every desktop system program is written in C and C++. It's very difficult to beat C and C++ combined as the top language in the world. This is the PyCon index. Java was the most popular language that people wanted to learn up until 2018, and since then, PyCon took over and it's never looked back, right? So this is what language people want to learn, and I think you can see that it's head and feet above the rest. This is the Stack Overflow index. JavaScript has always ranked the highest here. No surprises there. Stack Overflow is for people to ask questions about the language, right? And since nobody really understands how JavaScript works, everybody goes to Stack Overflow. Find out what other people are doing. So no surprises. Python is a close second, and SQL, which is used in Postgres, queries, etc., is also very up there. And finally, this is the Hacker News Index that I create. I publish this data. I'm sure you find it on my GitHub every month. The really interesting thing to see here, Python has always been second in terms of the number of jobs posted. React and AI, which are not really languages, are the ones that take the lead here. But the really important trend that I noticed here, which is very obvious, is how all of these jobs are really declining. Right? So you can see that in 2024, very few people are now posting jobs. I mean, Academy is still one of the most popular platforms to access to it, but the jobs are really declining. So this is data on Python's popularity in the world. What about Python's popularity in Pakistan? This data I'm very grateful to my team. They help me collect from LinkedIn. So if you have a LinkedIn recruiter account, you can do a search like PyCon Pakistan, and it'll show you how many results you can get. So I gave a bunch of queries to my team, and they ran these searches. There are 120,000 Python developers in Pakistan right now. And that seems a very decent number, right? But how does that compare with the rest of the world? So there are over 2 million developers in India. There are over 2 million developers in the US. They're the two largest economies for Python developers. And compared to them, they're obviously still very, very small. However, compared to other languages in Pakistan, Python fares reasonably well. It is the single most popular language in Pakistan. These are still the same LinkedIn queries. Java is a close second, PHP is close third, and then everything else is really down the list. How is this data distributed across geographies? No surprises again. Punjab is our most populated province, and all of these 500 developers come from Punjab, which is 60,000. Then there are people from Sindh, And Islamabad, which doesn't come in any capitals because of the federal governments, right? But even within provinces, the distribution is, massively skewed. And we can see that, most of these people actually in Punjab come from the war, so about 26,000 to 60,000, or 33,000 developers in the By the way, there could be an inherent bias in LinkedIn data because many people maybe originate from other places, but once they actually learn something, they come to these big cities for their jobs and update their city on LinkedIn. And then so the data becomes a little bit skewed. And finally, this is distribution by experience, right? So Python is a relatively young language, and you can see that most of the developers in the 3 to 5 years of experience actually, which, this looks like an order distribution, but for other languages it's very different, right? So for Java, you can see that this distribution is completely, the biggest bucket for Java is people with 10+ years. And finally, where are these people coming from? So no surprises again, the top one is FAST, the National University of Computing and Material Sciences. It's really encouraging because it's also one of our best computer science schools. The second one is also one of our best computer science schools, NUS, which is the National University of Science and Technology. And Lanzar, sitting here, is also ranking up there. So 2,600 developers list some affiliation with NUS in their profiles to LinkedIn, and also mention PyCon as one of the skills we have. So all of this is very encouraging. I think none of these universities actually teaches Python in first programming applications. That's really great. Good progress. This is one of the benefits of using Jupyter. You can just, use command plus and command plus. We also looked at data from GitHub. GitHub publishes something really amazing called the Innovation Graph. I don't know if people have looked at it. And they have a page for every country. The page for Pakistan has a lot of useful information. So there are about 1.2 million developers in total in Pakistan that are on GitHub. Maybe the number of developers is more, but many people are actually on GitHub. And roughly 56,000 of these people were Python developers. So I saw that stat, but I forgot to make a screenshot of that, which essentially means that half of the Python developers in Pakistan are actually on GitHub, which is also pretty exciting. These people pushed, contributed to about 2.2 million repositories in Q3 2023, which is again really encouraging. The number of pushes was not that great. So again, about 1.2 million pushes, which is about just one push per developer in that quarter. Really low average compared to the rest of the world. And they also, again, published this really convoluted chart, but we can see that PyCon is ranked second when it comes to pushes on GitHub compiles. We also looked at other data sources because we have a close relationship with edX. We requested them for this information. They specifically told us not to quote any numbers, but for the details. But there are 250,000 users enrolled in different PyCon courses on edX. 38% of those have college degree or higher. 28% have below a college degree, and the rest of them don't want to mention what their education statuses. So this data is also very encouraging. We are a pretty large PyCon country overall, but here is where I'm going to leave you with my concluding remarks. PyCon is almost the most popular language in the world right now, and it is growing in popularity. It is the most popular language in Pakistan and growing in popularity. Those are the good things. The not so great thing is that, and this is a great segue for our next talk from Edward there, or who's going to talk about contributions to open source. Here, GitHub also publishes a list of economies that contribute to open source, and we were not in the top 30. So the graph that they published, Pakistan is not there. And that's something that we need to change. I have listed a comment for myself that I need to show you that this was not a lazy presentation, and the code for this is not trivial. And it's also, I'll also show you, how to generate these graphs. So just display code. So this is the code for generating the graphs that you see. And what we do is, in Bitsu, we provide code for every slide that you want to generate. We also provide all the styles. Should we just or let's expand this a little bit. And for every slide that you want to generate, you actually add a code, and then you add all of your slides to a story, and then that story automatically makes the transition into those slides. All of this code is available on my GitHub. I wish you the best of luck in using Jupyter to present in your next conference. Thank you very much.